Valve.
Good old Valve. Made Portal and made
Half-Life. And Team Fortress 2 and
TF2. Good old TF2.
It seems like they don't really make games often, but when they do, they're very
everyone knows about them.
Widely received, but they also own this small little
you may have heard about
online
it's called like
gaming
Punk.
Distribution
Something like that.
Steam. I see what you did there. Steam
Punk.
Punk.
Steam. Yeah, that one.
Yeah. So, and this is not that weird 3DS game with Abraham Lincoln in it called Project Steam. That's a real thing. Look it up.
With Abraham Lincoln.
With Abraham Lincoln giving you orders.
I'm going to Google.
This is Steam, the of course very popular, very successful online game store, download, distribution service, etc. Charges were filed against Valve back in 2014 by the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission. Lots of C's in there.
Yes.
So
ACCC.
Yes, and apparently they claim that Steam rather misleads Australian consumers in its subscriber agreement and 2 versions of its Steam refund policy. So that's kind of confusing if you have 2 different policies for refunds. Apparently they have not been able to receive refund. I think it's as simple as Australia. If you live in Australia, Steam isn't offered there. So, but at the same time, if you go to like Steam.com or whatever, it's not locked off to you. But since you're in Australia, if you do something, if you buy, you're able to buy a game, but you're not able to get a refund if you don't like the game, because there is a refund policy, and I think it's kind of ridiculous, but it's like 2 hours. I think if you've played the game for less than 2 hours, you can return it for a full refund. Apparently, it looks like Australians weren't able to get a full refund because the service wasn't technically offered in Australia. So Valve was basically, getting away with, and I put that in quotes because I'm not entirely sure that they were wrong, but they, according to their user agreement, didn't have to give back refunds because they don't technically offer the service in Australia. And if you don't, if you're on the internet a lot, you might think that, Netflix and Amazon and all these places that we enjoy here in the U.S. are available outside the U.S. Not necessarily. Netflix in the U.K. is very different from the Netflix here. And I believe in Australia, Netflix is banned. Australia just has some different online laws about how they manage their internet access. So let me see if I can pull up any more details about this. But apparently they are charging it looks like $3 million as a fine to Valve for this. And I believe that they are also trying to get them to, of course, pay back the refunds that customers in Australia haven't been able to get.
You messed up, Valve. You done goofed.
So apparently it's up, but at the same time, I kind of feel like that's a little bit unfair to basically since you're not restricting a certain company from accessing your store, but at the same time, and so they're not legitimately doing business with you, but since it's so weird, like even though it's everywhere nowadays, the ethics of running an online store are quite different than like running a real store. You know what I mean? Or a physical store. Something like this, like I honestly don't know who's right here.
Yeah.
I don't know if...
but so they said that they can refund them, but they're not doing it, right? Isn't that basically what's going on?
Well, the ACCC has come after them and fined them and won in court in Australia, saying you owe $3 million to us as the fine, and I think they might be trying to also get them to basically pay back all those refunds too that
Because basically their policy in Australia is still that it still says that they can give refunds when they actually can't, right?
Right, but they're accessing the site, which shouldn't, which apparently it's not restricted since Valve operates Steam out of Seattle, Washington in the US. They're not in Australia. And they don't technically officially offer Steam in Australia, but people in Australia still are able to get to the website to purchase a game. So they're able to purchase it, but when it comes time to do a refund, Valve is denying them a refund because they're not officially using Steam because they don't officially.
So really, it just shouldn't be there at all. Like Australia.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, is it really up to Steam to block off their website from other countries accessing it? Like, because that's an investment right there.
Mm-hmm.
But and at the same time, like, okay, if someone buys something from you, you should give them a refund if they want a refund, just like anybody else. Like, it shouldn't matter what country they live in. They are kind of using a bit of a technicality to avoid that. Not to mention, we've talked about Steam's weird refund policy in the past. Like, I think with No Man's Sky changing a lot of that. Seriously, changing a lot of that. I think now Steam has to basically only put screenshots that have actually been taken from the game. Like, you can't load up the game into your workstation and like position the camera angle and like have the large dinosaurs that no one ever saw in No Man's Sky like exactly where you want it and then take a picture, because you'll never see that in the game. And I kind of get irritated with certain games too, that on the back of the box you'll see camera angle, you'll see like the game from like these really cool cinematic camera angles that you will never see in the game.
Yeah. So
that gets irritating. But yeah, I do think the ACCC is probably right here. Yeah. Because, you know, if you bring things back to the basics, someone buys something from you and you do offer refunds, you shouldn't be able to say, well, I'll give refunds to these people over here, but since I didn't officially do business with you, you don't get a refund. Yeah. Yeah. That's silly, Valve. Silly.